Hi, everybody. This is a follow-up activity to what you did in Active Classroom that looks at other types of advanced technology that occurred during the 1800s, especially as our country became more advanced and moved westward. So we're going to do some inferencing activities. Really, it's mostly three readings or three passages from that address different types of technology, and you just make an inference about what you've read or listened to me read to you. So let's begin with inferencing and what it is. In the left-hand column, when reading nonfiction texts, people should try to make inferences. An inference is when someone figures out information based on what they read, observe, or experience. For example, if someone's cooking, you might be able to infer what they are making from the smell. Summarizing nonfiction. To make an inference, a reader should answer these four questions. 1. What do I want to know? 2. What does the text say? 3. What do I already know? 4. What can I infer? Use the photograph below and the text on the next page to infer information about the Wilderness Road. So in the photograph below, you see settlers traveling on the Wilderness Road. So the second column, after the Revolutionary War, people wanted to move west, but it was difficult to cross the Appalachian Mountains. In the late 18th century, Daniel Boone was hired to clear a trail from the Carolinas to the Northwest Territory. He built the trail through the Cumberland Gap, a narrow pass in the mountains. This steep, dangerous trail led to present-day Kentucky and was named the Wilderness Road. It became the main route for settlers moving to the west. So in the box below, you will make an inference. The first one really has been done for you. It says, what do I want to know? And it says, how did the road help settlers? Here's where you'll begin to add your own information. What does the text say? The next one, what do I already know? And thirdly, what can I infer from the text that you just read? And so you would briefly fill out that information. Going on to the next page, advances in technology. During the late 18th and early 19th centuries, advances in technology changed life in the United States. This period is known as the Industrial Revolution. Machines could do the work of many people. Manufactured goods were made in less time at a cheaper cost than those made by hand. Businesses could sell products at a lower price. Many people could afford to buy these goods for the first time, causing demand to increase. Manufactured goods. Growing and preparing cotton was a difficult process. Seeds and fibers had to be separated from the cotton before the cotton could be used. A slave could only clean 1 pound of cotton per day. In 1793, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. Two or three slaves could clean 50 pounds of cotton per day using the gin. As cotton's value increased, Southern farmers stopped growing other crops. At the same time, plantation owners increased their use of slave labor to produce the cotton. So in this picture down here is a photograph of a real cotton gin at the Eli Whitney Museum. In 1801, in the second column, in 1801, Whitney also invented interchangeable parts. These parts were made to fit a specific tool or machine. Guns and tools could be produced faster and more cheaply. Other inventions, such as the double-sided needle and sewing machines, made it easier to produce cloth. Textile mills were built along fast-moving rivers in New England. Starting in 1813, Francis Cabot Lowell built several mills in Massachusetts. The young women who worked in these mills were paid well. but worked long hours in poor conditions. So this is a picture, a tin type, literally a photo that has been produced on a tin-like product. So it's very hard and stiff and like it says, made out of tin. So a tin type of 2 mill workers around 1870. Most workers were between 15 to 30 years old and usually worked 70 hours each week. Going back to the interchangeable parts, why that is such a unique and important invention is that before, if a piece of equipment or a machine broke down, let's say a rifle, for example, you would have to just get rid of the entire rifle. With interchangeable parts, if part of the weapon ceases to work, you don't have to get rid of the entire weapon. You can simply replace the part of that weapon, or in machines, in factories, replace the part of that weapon or machine that is not working and put a brand new piece in, a brand new part, instead of getting rid of the entire thing. And that really revolutionized the ability to more effectively and cheaply maintain not only weapons, but of course machines in factories. So interchangeable parts was incredibly important, and we can see that even with a cell phone, for example. If we break the screen on our cell phone, we don't necessarily have to get rid of the entire cell phone. We just need to have the screen replaced. The rest of the cell phone works perfectly fine. And so this was an important invention that has been used, tens of thousands of times in the making of other pieces of machinery and equipment since Eli Whitney invented interchangeable parts in 1801. So changes in agriculture. New technology also affected farming. In 1797, Charles Newbold made planting seeds easier with his horse-drawn mechanical plow. However, the plow would get stuck in the clay-like soil of the Great Plains. Cyrus McCormick's reaper made it easier to harvest grain in 1832. Its sharp blades could cut grain 4 times faster than a person doing it by hand. 5 years later, John Deere improved Newbold's plow by adding steel blades, which prevented mud from sticking. And in the picture, you see an early John Deere plow around 1845. The Midwest grew as farming and trade increased. Wheat became the region's cash crop, and cities such as Chicago became important centers of trade. In the Manifest Destiny painting that you analyzed last week, you see farmers that are using a steel plow, John Deere steel plow that was easier to cut through that concrete-like soil of the Great Plains. So an incredibly important invention during that time period. Finally, transportation and communications. As transportation improved, people could travel farther in less time. Early roads were muddy and full of potholes, and stagecoaches and horses would often get stuck. In 1811, the federal government built the National Road from Maryland to Illinois. It was paved with gravel, making it easier for travel. River travel improved after Robert Fulton invented the steamboat in 1807. A steamboat could travel 4 times faster than a boat without an engine. Traveling by boat remained limited until canals were built and joined rivers with a series of locks. In 1825, the Erie Canal opened, connecting Lake Erie with the Atlantic Ocean. And the Erie Canal was incredibly, probably the most most advanced form of architecture at that time in the United States, really in the world, connecting the Atlantic Ocean, if you can imagine, with Lake Erie. So it had to cut through the Rocky Mountains, had to cut through the Atlantic Ocean. I am losing my mind today. Had to cut through the Appalachian Mountains and so forth to get to Lake Erie. And this was incredibly important because previous to this, there was no easy way to get to the interior of the United States or to those Great Lakes. You had to, if you wanted to get to the Great Lakes, you had to actually go all the way up into Canada and come down through the Hudson River into the Great Lakes. And this allowed us to make man-made canals, our first man-made canal cutting through land in areas where water didn't exist, and allow transportation from the port cities of the of the East and the East Coast to the Great Lakes. And from the Great Lakes, then goods could be transported to Chicago, which is on Lake Michigan, and was a big port city of the Great Lakes and in the interior part of the United States. So it was really just a monumental invention in technology at that time. So finally, you see a picture here of a river paddle steamer from the 1850s. In 1830, Peter Cooper built a steam locomotive. Steam trains eventually became the main form of transportation in the country. In the 1830s, Samuel Morse's telegraph made it easier to communicate over long distances. It used electricity to send messages over wires. In 1859, the Pony Express opened its mail carriers rode horses over a 2,000-mile trail. After telegraph lines reached the West Coast in 1861, the Pony Express closed. And all of these things you saw examples of in the Manifest Destiny painting that you looked at a week ago. You see Lady Columbia holding the telegraph wire in her hand. You see the steam locomotives and so forth. So really that one picture in so many ways exemplifies all the changes in technology and communication that are in transportation that are going on in that very very ambitious time in U.S. history, where so much is being invented and created and trying to meet the needs of people that are moving westward. So down below in this box, you will infer how changes in transportation and communication affected westward migration. And so you write a short summary or inference of what you believe the impact was of transportation and communication. Message me if you have any questions about any of this.